welcome back to Gossip in the Closet. This week is Mia's week, and I think it's episode 6, so we're doing really well. And as we stand, we're still doing alternative weeks. Shelby last week spoke a little bit about second chances and giving second chances, so I'll get into that. But guys, we've just had Valentine's Day a couple of weeks ago, and this is pre-recorded because I was I was gifted a trip to Paris. So by the time you see this, I would have been and gone to Paris. So check out me content because it should be Paris vibes right now. But yeah, really excited. I'm sure we're gonna have a great time. We're only going for 2 nights. A little trip away. I think it's needed, especially after Christmas and like January, and it's been raining like every single day since January. So yeah, really excited, and hopefully the weather is okay in France. I've got my fingers crossed. Okay, so hypnotherapy I spoke about in my previous episode, so that would have been episode 4. I have continued to do a second session of hypnotherapy. What I will say is I didn't go as deep into the hypnotherapy this time round. However, I've been having really bad vivid dreams. I had a really bad panic attack the other night. So just to say this, as the journey is never linear, obviously things do come up. I still recommend hypnotherapy. I just think there's a lot of things that are being, uncovered in the subconscious mind, and maybe that's coming out in my dreams. She did say that you might get vivid dreams, but my God, I've been waking up at witching hour, so I don't know. Here's hoping everything's okay. So in the previous episode, if you go back to Shelby's episode last week, at the end of that episode, she asked me some questions, and she named a game called Second Chance or Block Forever. So I've written these down. I thought it was a bloody riddle, not going to lie, Shelby, but thank you very much. I am going to try and read it out and make sense of it. So the first question that she had for me was, they told their best friends your deepest, darkest secret. However, your best friend is dating their best friend, and they went and told each other. So apparently all 4 of us now know. So my best friend now knows my secret. They've told their best friend, but their best friend is... Hold on a minute. Everyone's dating each other in this. But anyway, I said blocked because I'm not going to lie. If I told my partner my secret and they told their best friend who was dating my best friend, we all now know the secret, so it wasn't really a secret, was it? So blocked for that one, Shelby. The next one was partner cheated but told you straight away after and apologized. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't forgive cheating. I would not give a second chance for that, so I'm gonna block you for that too. The last one that she said was, you've been texting for a while, but you've not met like one-on-one yet, but you're in the same kind of friendship group. However, you see them at a party and they ignore you, but they send you a text later saying, really sorry, but their ex was there and it was really awkward, so they didn't really want to approach. Blocked. If you can't talk to me at a party because your ex is there, then something's obviously not right. So unless there's been a conversation beforehand about that being a situation or that being a difficult circumstance, then I'm blocking. So blocked for all of those 3. Thank you, Shelby. Okay. Gossip of the week. This week we are talking about 3 real reasons why couples fight. And the reason I wanted to speak about this week is because Shelby liked to remind me that our podcast is mainly about relationships. So, 3 reasons why couples fight. Now, if anybody knows me or has anyone known me for the past couple of years, they will know that I'm really obsessed with Esther Perel. I love her. I love her work. I love everything that she talks about. I think she's very open-minded, and she's very... she's just got a lot of depth to her, and I just love everything she says. So She talks about 3 main reasons why you might argue in a relationship. Now, obviously, we all argue in relationships, or we bicker about little things like, did you wash the dishes? Why didn't you wash the dishes? Why are you late? Or you can just be annoyed that they're scrolling on social media endlessly. This is normally, a very... People always say, what you argue about at the start, you end up arguing 20 years down the line, and you keep arguing about the same 3 things all the time, or the same couple of things all the time, and it kind of never really ends. But what are we really arguing about? Are we arguing that you didn't do the dishes? Are we arguing because you're not, you scolded us? Or is it something deeper? Now, Esther Perel talks and refers to the 3 things that we argue about. And I think it's another guy that said this. Can't remember his name. But the 3 things are closeness and trust, respect and recognition, and power and control. So let's start with closeness and trust. Are we arguing about the social media scrolling because we don't feel that closeness to our partner when they're scrolling on social media? Are we distrusting of what that means when they're endlessly scrolling on their phone and tic-tacking away? And respect and recognition. What are we fighting for in respecting, and do we not feel that we were respected when that person was late, when that person didn't turn up on time, when that person didn't show up when they said that they were going to show up? Is that a lack of recognition? Are we not feeling respected? That could come hand in hand with the dishes. I'm doing the dishes, you're not doing the dishes, or I just cleaned the kitchen and now you've gone and made a mess in the kitchen. I don't feel recognised. I don't feel like I've been recognised for what I've been, what I've done. I've cleaned the kitchen, so it's not so much that they didn't do the dishes or they didn't wash up. It's more that I don't feel respected now. I don't feel recognised for that. And the third one is power and control. Who's in charge? Whose priorities take lead over the other person? And who says I versus who says we? So those are the kind of things we're talking about with power and control, submissive, dominant. Who's the person that always gets their wants and needs met, and who's the other person kind of always trying to play catch up and always trying to make sure the other person's wants and needs are done, and and then the other person kind of doesn't kind of put the same value on what are their wants and needs, this kind of thing. So what's important to look at here is, what am I reacting to? Am I reacting to the dishes? Am I reacting to the endless scrolling on social media? Or am I reacting because I don't feel close to this person? I don't feel valued. I don't feel trust. I don't feel respect. I don't feel that I have any control in this situation. These are the things that we need to look at. What are we fighting for? And how do we tackle these things? Do we say, you make me feel this way, or you make me do this, or you're a idiot and you're a this and you're a that, when we start name calling and we start, putting the blame on the other person, rather than how can we approach this in a meaningful conversation that means that we're actually going to get somewhere, we're actually going to describe exactly what's going on here. Why don't we say, I don't feel recognised when you go in the kitchen and you make a mess after I've cleaned it and I've done the dishes, I've done the dishes every day and you haven't done anything. These are the kind of things that, you don't want to be saying. You want to be saying, I don't feel recognised. I feel invalidated when I have done something and it doesn't feel like you have taken it on board. You haven't appreciated it. So this is really important that you explain, how do I feel, rather than just putting it on there. That's going to put them up in a defense. That's not going to let them lean in towards you. That's not going to get them to understand. What you're fighting for is different. Also, the social media thing, I don't feel close to you when you spend the whole hour that we have to relax just scrolling on social media rather than having a meaningful connection with me. That's what you can say, rather than saying, you're untrustworthy, something's not right, you're always on your phone, you don't care about anyone else, that kind of stuff. So it's really important that we frame what we say to our partners and we have a meaningful conversation. This obviously doesn't have to just relate to, an intimate relationship, a romantic relationship, let's say. It can be with friends or with family. So, for example, obviously me and Shelby, we have a close relationship. We're sisters. So we have little bickers. So here's one I thought about earlier. Once we were living together once, and we used to do like these workouts through COVID, as everybody was doing. And I remember I put my songs on, and we were going to do a workout to the songs and whatever, as you do. And she was like to me, don't put this on. This is rubbish. I don't like this music. You can't work out to this. It's sad music. I don't like it. Da, da, da. And I got really upset and I got really defensive and I kind of walked out. And when I reflect and when I think about it, we weren't arguing about the songs, She kind of wanted the songs that she always had on, and I kind of felt that she always picked the songs. So we were kind of arguing a bit over power control there. And I would say a little bit of respect and recognition, I wanted the respect. I wanted the recognition, We can't always listen to your music. I want to listen to my music too. And it might just seem like such a silly little thing, but in relationships, we do have little bickers, and we need to get down to the bottom of what are we actually arguing about here. And it can be really easy to then resolve the issue, because then you could be like, I don't feel like you respect that I actually prefer different types of music, and I would probably rather to listen to that just this time round. And then she could probably have understood a little bit more that this wasn't about the music, really. It was about something else. And then she could have come back and said, I appreciate that. However, I don't feel like this music is going to motivate me, and I like to listen to motivational music. And then we could compromise, so these are really important to think about when you're having arguments with friends and families, and just little bickers like that we kind of come across. And even the three things that I came up with, the three examples: the lateness, the social media, washing dishes. These are things that I'm sure will relate to many, many people out there. These are three things that Esther Perel pointed out, and she, I found it relatable. When I look back at my previous relationships, like, these are really prevalent things that probably every relationship has dealt with, dealing with these three things. So it's really important to recognize where that's coming from and where that stems from. And I just think it's a really intelligent thing to have come up with, because it actually can be applied to so many situations. I would urge you at home to just even think about a little bicker, a little argument, a little thing that you keep going over with your partner or someone that you love, and think, actually, what was I fighting for there? What is the dynamic between us that keeps getting us back into these kind of back and forths? And how can we resolve that? How can I express how I feel without making the other person feel like they're being attacked? That's what's really important here. Okay, so why is it helpful? Okay, what this does, it gives us a map to look at what is really going on here. We tend to get into arguments and we get lost in the heat of the argument, and we're going back and forth and back and forth. It gives you a moment to pause. Take a minute, take a step back and look at these three things. What is it that we're arguing about? What is it that we are arguing for? Is it closeness and trust? Is it respect and recognition? Or is it power and control? Or is it more than one of those things? It could be two of those things, three of those things, And it shifts the dynamic from, are we blaming, shifts from blaming to understanding, and really trying to find a way to resolve the conflict. We all know that getting into really heated arguments can be really hard to control sometimes and bring back to baseline, so that we can actually resolve the conflict that we are obviously experiencing. So one thing that might work really, really well, and something that you can talk about when you're not having an argument with your partner, is, why don't we use a method? Why don't we have a word that we use when we get to that point where the argument is just gone to another level, it's too heated, and we actually can't resolve right now because emotions are really high, we're human, and everyday life can be very, very overwhelming. So for example, you could use the word stop. one of you could say, stop. That means the argument has stopped. We have paused. Some people, due to attachment theories and attachment styles and fight styles, like to take time. They like to take time to process, to think. They might want to go on a walk. They might want to go on a 10-minute walk. And sometimes we may be anxious and we may want to resolve right away. So that might already be a conflicting situation that you're in, and it's quite common for those two people to link up in a relationship. So maybe someone takes 10 minutes, they say, stop, I'm taking 10 minutes, I promise you I'll be back, and you need to come back in 10 minutes, and that other person is secure in the knowledge that you do come back. And then you sit down and you say, okay, what are we fighting for? Let's look at these 3 things that Esther Perel talks about. What is it exactly? Where are your emotional needs not being met here? What is the feeling that's coming up for you when you're experiencing the argument, or when we talk about this specific topic that keeps coming up again and again and again? And this is where we can actually get ourselves from this really heated space of emotional height to, okay, let's come down. Let's look at the person that we love, and let's try to actually resolve the situation, rather than allowing our emotions and our experiences to completely overtake and just getting into an endless cycle of no resolution and no resolve. So try that. Let me know in the comments if it works for you. I think it can be a really, really good thing to try out. And I'm sure there's lots of other tools. If you just look up Esther Perel, she would probably have loads to say on that. So I've got a question for Shelby this week, as she last week had a few questions for me. I've just got one question. So tell me, what is this couple fighting for? So we have a couple called Shelley and Patricia. Shelley is vegan and Patricia is not vegan. Now, Shelley is always having to pick the meals because, of course, Patricia is not vegan. So Patricia is starting to get a little upset about this. And they're starting to have a bit of a back and forth. Patricia's starting to get a little bit wound up and a little bit upset that we're always eating what Shelley wants to eat because we have to eat vegan, or we have to consider Shelley's vegan diet. Okay, so that's it for this episode. Please, if you liked it, please like, comment and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. It really does help us, and we really appreciate anyone and everyone that is coming back to watch us every single week. And yeah, let us know if there's anything that we can improve on, or if there's any feedback. We welcome it fully. Thank you so much. Follow us on social media. We are on Twitter and we are on Instagram. Gossip in the Closet. Thank you so much. Have a good week.
Gossip in the closet.